In Synoptic Panel, sometimes you need to change the map dynamically. Maybe with a slicer or with a different visual, you need to cross filter so that when you select a data point or filter a value, the map changes dynamically. Let's have a look at it. Here in Power BI Desktop, I already loaded 3 different maps, one for every ship. Using the native slicer, the regular one, the map changes. When no map has been selected, you see that just ship A is visible. That is happening because Synoptic Panel orders the map alphabetically. Therefore, it shows the first one when no selection has been applied. However, my recommendation is to not show the first map as a default. We will see in the video why. And the solution for that is having a placeholder. In this case, when no selection has been made, then it shows a placeholder, a default view. Just when a ship has been selected, then the user sees the ship. In this video, we will build those both map selector, the standard and the one with the default view. So let's start with the first one. To create a map using Synoptic Panel, the first step is to drag and drop a column. In this case, I'm going to drag and drop the area. But before doing that, let's have a look at the data. The data is pretty straightforward. For every ship, A, B, and C, we have different areas. These areas have the same name in all the ships. And finally, we have the metric, the work in progress percentage. So the first step is to drag and drop, in this case, the area into categories. And now we load the 3 different maps. Yes, you can load more than one map at once. Add map. And I have here all the 3 ships. Done. Just like that, I can switch the maps using this drop-down menu, for example, ship B and ship A. But we will use the map selector to use an external visual to change the map. Before doing that, just to make this map more meaningful, I'm going to add some conditional formatting. To do that, it can be done under areas and under FX, the usual conditional formatting. The one that I'm gonna use is gradient, depending on the work in progress percentage metric. The color will be starting from orange towards green. So let's select a green. Voila, we have the map. Sometimes my recommendation is to add an outline so the users can easily see every single shape. Here we can force the outline, selecting custom, and force the outline. So now we can see the shapes even better. So now let's build the map selector. To do that, we need to create a measure to add here in the maps selector field. You don't need to know DAX to build a map selector measure. You just go to the OKVIZ documentation page and copy and paste the code. Finally, you replace the table and column name with your table and column names. Let's do that. Here in the OKVIZ documentation, you can look for map selector. In the map selector documentation, there is the explanation of the map selector, and there is this measure that you can use as a reference. I'm going to copy and paste the code. Here, I already have some measures because they are being used in the first pages, but let's build the measures together from scratch. So, new measure, and we need to change the name of the measure and the name of the table and the column. This will be selected ships. And finally, we want to filter the ship, not the office. So I replace with data ship, the name of the table, and the column, data and ship. Finally, here we have the measure selected ship that we can use here in Synoptic Panel in the map selector area. Selected ship. Now we need to assign for each map the correct ship. Let's do that. So let's go to the map editor, and for every map, for every ship, we assign the right ship. For example, this is ship A. Save and back. So I'm telling Synoptic Panel, hey, listen, every time I will select or filter or cross filter ship B, then you will show this map. Save and back. And finally, ship C. Save and close. All right, now nothing happens, but let's see what happens when we add the first slicer. The regular slicer and ship. Ship A, it is the same, ship B and ship C. So you can see that the maps changes according to the user selection. However, there is a big issue that is happening behind the scenes. When no map has been selected, it shows ship A. And the problem with that is that it is grouping all the data in the dataset. Let's have a look at it more specifically. What is going on? The problem of not having a default view is that Synoptic Panel uses the first map to show all the data. Let's have a look at an example. Here we have some fake row data. So you can see that the area A1 is repeated in A, B, and C in all the ships. Since no filters has been selected, then the final average is 77%, while it should be for ship A 35%. So the final view here is ship A with the area A1, which is this one, which is being more completed than the others, and that is not true. The thing is that now here when seeing all the data grouped together. To solve that, we need to create a map selector with a default view. It is just like the other map selector, but with a little bit of more code. Let's have a look at it in the documentation. Here in the documentation, we have the default view map selector. Again, we just copy and paste the code. We don't even have to know that. Let's go back to Power BI. And let's create a new measure. This new map selector with default view. Let's call it selected ship default view. Again, we need to replace the table and the column name. In this case, I'm going to use a shortcut to make it faster. Ctrl-Shift-L. The table is data and the column is ship. Now let's replace the map selector. So I remove the previous one and I use this new one, default view. In this case, we need to add the default view. Let's do it. I already have a placeholder, the ones that you saw before at the beginning of the video, this placeholder. You can put any image that you want. I'm selecting one that guides the user to select a ship. Here we also need to set the map selector drop-down. In this case, this map, this image will be default view. Save and close. So when nothing is selected, this placeholder is shown. But when we filter a map, and therefore also the data, it changes dynamically. Now let's do a recap. In Synoptic Panel, you can create a map selector to change the maps dynamically, either using a slicer or other visuals, so cross-filtering Synoptic Panel. The standard map selector already works, but depending on your data model, it could make sense to have a default view. To achieve that, you need to create also a map selector measure a little bit more complex, but you can just copy and paste the code. I hope you found this video useful. I'm gonna leave in the description of the video the reference to the documentation so you can copy and paste the map selector without much hassle.